Hi everyone, good morning. Welcome to Voices of Tomorrow. On today's session, we are going to run our ninth session. So, uh, I would like to welcome Miss Brigita Manohara for our speakers on today's session, and also Srinjoy Chowdhury that will be the first speaker on today's session. So before we start, I would like to remind to all of the participants to fill the registration link, and also to put the question in the comment section. So to start the session, I will move to Pasachin to give maybe opening remarks for this.
Thank you, Dafa. And first of all, a warm welcome to Srinjoy Chowdhury and Brigita Manohara for being our resource mentors today. The Voices of Tomorrow is a program that has been very painstakingly put together by a lot of people, but initiated by Ambassador Sandeep Chakravorty. Ambassador Sandeep and I had this idea some months ago that it must be important endeavor on our side that we are able to bring together the people that we know, the journalists from India and Indonesia who are very senior and have a lot of editorial wisdom that can be shared with young journalists. And we put this program together, and I thank Ambassador Sandeep for his ability to bring together so many well-known, well-distinguished senior journalists from India. And our team in India News Desk has worked with the Indonesian side and bringing together the journalists. So a few words from Ambassador Sandeep before we get started. Over to you, Ambassador Sandeep.
Thank you, Pasachin, and thank you, Dafa, and a hearty welcome to Brigita Manohara and to my friend Srinjoy. And as Sachin said, that this is yet another attempt to bring India and Indonesia closer. And a lot of people talk of media cooperation, and it has sadly been restricted to only visits by journalists. So we have also done that, but and we did it very successfully during the visit of President Prabowo to India in January 2025. But then we thought that why don't we do something different, which is getting into mentorship training, experience sharing, learning sharing, and from that discussion with Sachin and Paprimus, I think this idea emerged, and we are on the ninth session today. We were planning initially 10 sessions, but new ideas are emerging, and maybe we'll continue it for some more time because the resource persons are quite extraordinary, and the content that it is generating is also quite extraordinary, which can be shared widely, not only restricted to people who are participating in this program, but also across boundaries, and can become very, very useful. I know Srinjoy quite well, if I may say so, and Srinjoy is a good example of someone transitioning from print journalism to television journalism, and I think he has done it quite exceptionally. And he used to be a pioneer in television journalism just when television news in India was booming, and he led that charge very, very, very successfully. He is a very known face in India, and he has been a pioneer and also a leader, and he has been an expert in international affairs and defense that are his forte. But I'm sure he will share some secrets of his craft today with this audience. Srinjoy, please be very generous with your knowledge and ideas. Share it, and the more you share, the more it will multiply. I'm sure you'll do that, and the similar expectation from Brigita. I must say that Srinjoy um, has built his craft on a wonderful network, and I think in media, network with the people who are in the right places is very important. Your sources are very important. Sometimes you can name your sources, sometimes you cannot name your sources. But if you cannot name your sources, it's better to write that the source did not want to be identified rather than writing something which cannot be attributed. I think it's very, very important. Otherwise, it borders on fake news. But Srinjoy has mastered that art, and I'm sure he will be sharing it today. Thank you, Pa Sachin and your team for doing this. And we are almost coming to the end, but I think we are now moving the goalpost a bit further, and we may continue with doing some more sessions. New ideas are emerging, and I believe it is very successfully conducted by your team. What I'm saying is, what is wonderful is that anybody we reached out to attend and participate as resource person, nobody has said no, which I think is a good testimony to the power of this program. I think we have not had any negative responses from anybody, whether in Indonesia or in India. I think that shows how well conceived this program is, and looking forward to hearing today's resource persons. Thank you. Over to you, Padafa.
Thank you so much, Your Excellency, Mr. Sandeep Chakravorty. Um, so I would like to say good morning, everyone. And today we'll be discussing about TV journalism and on-camera present. And now we are honored to have two excellent speakers with us, Srinjoy Chowdhury from Times Now and Brigita Manohara from TvOne. So on today's session, we are going to help in bilingual, so we can use Indonesian and also we can use English. So Miss Brigita, if you are more comfortable with Indonesia, you can say you can talk and present with Indonesia. So selamat pagi Mbak Brigita.
Selamat pagi, Kak Dava.
Selamat
Selamat pagi,
pagi.
teman-teman semua. Once again, I would like to greet Pak Sachin, Pak Sandeep. Thank you for inviting me for this opportunity, Voices of Tomorrows, and share with the younger journalists. Yeah, suddenly I feel old.
Baik, terima kasih Mbak Brigita. Mungkin saya izin untuk membacakan sedikit profil dari Mbak Brigita terlebih dahulu sebelum kita memulai ke dalam sesi pagi ini. Brigita Purnawati Manohara merupakan seorang jurnalis, konsultan komunikasi, dan juga akademisi yang berasal dari Indonesia, dikenal karena kiprahnya di dunia penyiaran dan pendidikan. Mbak Brigita saat ini menjabat sebagai spokesperson, produser, dan news anchor di TvOne, sekaligus menjadi dosen di Binus University pada bidang hukum bisnis. Selain itu, Mbak Brigita juga aktif sebagai konsultan hukum dan komunikasi di berbagai institusi termasuk PLN Nusantara Power dan juga Ceria Nugraha Indotama. Baik, kepada Mbak Brigita dipersilakan.
Baik, terima kasih Dava. Selamat pagi sekali lagi teman-teman semua. Pardon if I use bahasa, Pak Sandeep dan juga Pak Sachin. Allow me to use bahasa ya teman-teman. So it is easier for me to get closer to all of you that join this event. Kira-kira seperti itu. Kak Dava, can I share my presentation?
Yes, sure.
Okay, baik. Teman-teman, supaya ini kita lebih dekat, saya berharapnya sih nggak cuma saya yang cerita aja, tetapi saya berharap teman-teman juga bisa memberikan masukan. Ini teman-teman bisa open mic nggak, Kak Dava?
Mungkin apabila Mbak Brigita lebih nyaman untuk berdiskusi secara langsung atau dua arah, mungkin nanti dipersilakan Mbak Brigita.
Oke, kalau
Namun
enggak, ya
seperti
kalau enggak
biasa,
nanti bisa pakai kolom chat aja kali ya.
ya betul.
Oke, I share kalau gitu. Saya tanya dulu. Di sini ada yang dari TV? Teman-teman boleh di chat. Adakah yang dari media televisi, entah itu mainstream ataupun yang basicnya di YouTube, seperti misalnya Jawa Post TV, itu kan masih di ini ya, internet ya. Ada teman-teman di sini? Yang dari TV? Ada. Ada lagi? Baru satu. Ada lagi? Cuman satu. Oh, oke. Berarti mayoritas tidak dari TV ya, teman-teman. Nah, pertanyaan saya, ketika teman-teman melakukan peliputan, apakah teman-teman hanya membuat berita tulis saja ataukah teman-teman juga provide audiovisual? Oh, halo Dida TV, apa kabar Kak Dinau? Yang lain, apakah teman-teman juga provide berita audiovisual, video? Hai Kak Dani, apa kabar? Tergantung kebutuhan, kadang pakai visual, konten medsos, teks dan video. Oke. Ada yang kemudian live report juga? Multi platform Kak, ya sekarang satu untuk semua ya teman-teman ya. Teman-teman ada yang juga live report? Atau cuman bikin beritanya aja atau teman-teman live report? Live report tuh jadi teman-teman ikut menyampaikan gitu loh. Ada di sini live report di Facebook. Wow, mantap. Yang lain di medianya ada yang live report? Kalau saya tulis dan foto aja. Oh, terima kasih Kak Yuni. Karena wartawan koran. Biasanya koran kalau dia ada online-nya dia nanti juga provide materi atau dia punya Instagram. Biasanya dia juga bikin ini nggak sih? Bikin juga sekalian untuk ininya. Live report juga. Oh, mantap Kak Dinal. Live report di TikTok untuk event besar. Oh, mantap. Oh, Kak Made di Jateng TV ya. Berita Jateng.tv. Oke. Yang lain? Ada lagi? Ada lagi yang juga live report? Kan naik nih, tadi apakah cuma bikin beritanya, kemudian naik, sekarang live report, sekarang kita naik lagi, yang siaran. Nah, yang siaran it means teman-teman adalah presenternya, news presenternya atau news anchornya. Ada di sini? News presenter, news anchor? Kak Made Dinda apakah juga news presenter? Kak Faith apakah juga news presenter? Ada di sini yang news presenter? Saya tergabung dalam jurnalis di kampus. Oh, belum. Nggak apa-apa, join dulu. Siapa tahu nanti di hire dari TV. Kak Betty apakah juga news presenter? Ada di sini yang news presenter, teman-teman? Ada? Nggak ada? Belum. Kalau gitu pertanyaannya dirubah. Ada yang pengen jadi news presenter atau news anchor? Hanya VJ. Ada yang jadi presenter atau news anchor pengen gitu? Menggantikan saya tentu saja. Belum ada. Oke. Baik, kalau belum ada. Ternyata teman-teman sudah terbiasa ya dengan materi audiovisual, itu yang pertama. Kemudian karena provide-nya bukan cuma provide tulis saja atau foto saja, tapi beberapa tadi sudah ada yang audiovisual. Bahkan tadi ada juga yang sudah melakukan live report gitu ya teman-teman. It means teman-teman sudah get usual dengan barang audiovisual ini gitu ya. Jadi secara basic teman-teman pasti sudah sangat memahami. Tapi kita coba kenalan dulu ya buat teman-teman yang belum tahu kenapa sih kok saya diundang sama Voices of Tomorrow ini dibandingkan dengan presenter-presenter lain yang tentu bisa jadi saat ini lebih sering tayang di TV gitu ya. Jadi kenapa kok saya dikontak? Ada alasannya kenapa Pak Sachin dan Pak Sandeep ini mengundang saya teman-teman. Mungkin saya satu-satunya presenter perempuan di negara ini yang gelarnya doktor. Dan sekarang lagi ngambil doktor kedua di PDN. Jadi dokternya bukan dokter Universitas Borobudur seperti kemarin ya kan. Yang menghilang dari peredaran tiba-tiba jadi dokter ya kan. Dokter hukum lagi kan ya. Saya nggak harus sebutkan ya. Yang akhirnya Iron Man-nya dikembalikan. Nah. Saya dokter UI teman-teman di bidang hukum administrasi khususnya spesifik di energi. Jadi tulisan saya lebih banyak soal energi. Dan saya punya 3 gelar master, Magister Manajemen, Magister Ilmu Hukum, dan juga Magister Ilmu Komunikasi. Dan saya juga punya 2 gelar sarjana dari ITS Surabaya dan dari Yosudarso University. Artinya bukan cuma mau menginfluence teman-teman untuk berkarir lebih baik lagi sebagai jurnalis, tetapi Voice of Tomorrow ini juga ingin menginfluence teman-teman, ayo upgrade diri teman-teman di bidang pendidikan, supaya nanti bisa kemana-mana, gitu kan ya. Karena ketika teman-teman jadi jurnalis ini aksesnya terbuka kemana-mana. Tapi bagaimana mengkapitalisasi akses yang ada ini, supaya nanti ke depan teman-teman di tengah gempuran bisnis media ini yang semakin sulit, nah teman-teman sudah tahu kira-kira nanti saya mau kemana, saya mau membuat apa. Ini Voice of Tomorrow ini benar-benar ingin teman-teman para jurnalis muda ini tahu nanti mau kemana stepnya. Kalau mau jadi jurnalis bukan cuma jurnalis yang jago kandang, tetapi juga bisa go global, seperti nanti bisa masuk ke katakanlah CNN Amerika atau masuk ke media-media besar lainnya. Itu harapannya sih seperti itu, semuanya terbuka lebar gitu ya teman-teman. Saya akan share ini singkat-singkat saja karena sepertinya tadi kalau dari pretesnya teman-teman sudah menyampaikan terbiasa dengan hal ini. Saya berharap nanti akan ada banyak feedback dari teman-teman untuk bisa saya respon agar kehadiran saya pagi hari ini ketemu dengan teman-teman bisa memberikan manfaat gitu ya teman-teman. Ini pengertian singkat saja, pasti berbeda ya antara televisi dan juga kalau kita ngomong cetak dan kita ngomong soal radio. Namanya TV dia pasti audiovisual ya teman-teman. Dan namanya audiovisual seringkali barang yang bisa jadi kalau dia ini hanya berupa foto itu tidak terlihat, tetapi karena dia bergerak dia bisa terlihat. Seperti kemarin ketika ada yang mendapati Pak Bahlil colek-colek Pak Rosan, ya kan? Nah, itulah ngerinya kalau kita ngomong audiovisual, semuanya kelihatan teman-teman. Gerak sedikit pun, lirikan mata sedikit pun, itu kalau dia tercapture kamera, dia bisa terlihat. Itulah kenapa kalau di audiovisual ini sulit bohong. Karena kita ngomong enggak, tetapi matanya ngomongnya apa. Nah, makanya kalau di audiovisual ini, di TV itu biasanya ada kan pengamat gerak-gerik lah, apalah ya kan. Ilmu cocok loginya banyak dibandingkan kalau misalnya kita cuman audio saja atau cuman tulisan saja. Itu berbeda, gitu ya teman-teman. Nah, tentu saja ini fungsinya untuk bisa menyampaikan informasi jauh lebih akurat. Ketika dibilang itu nggak ada apa-apa, masa iya nggak ada apa-apa? Buktinya lu colek-colek kan kayak gitu kan ya, gorengnya lagi tuh barang gitu kan. Ataupun misalnya, masa iya nggak ada apa-apa, tapi buktinya kok kemarin tertangkap gambar lagi gandengan. Nah, kayak gitu-gitu tuh nggak bisa bohong teman-teman. Karena kalau dia cuma foto dia bisa di frame pas waktunya itu aja, padahal misalnya di situ ada banyak orang tapi karena yang samping-samping bisa dibuang itu bisa jadi framing tersendiri. Nah, tapi kalau audiovisual kan dia diambil gambar yang lebih luas dan kelihatan secara detail seperti apa. Lebih susah lah ibarat kata nutupinnya gitu ya, teman-teman. Jadi kalau mau bohong di audiovisual khususnya di televisi yang mainstream itu agak sulit. Kenapa? Karena kalau di teman-teman pasti sudah tahu kalau di mainstream itu kan kita ada P3SPS, kemudian kita ada kode etik dan lain-lain gitu kan ya teman-teman. Beda dengan kalau misalnya kita kayak di media sosial lainnya yang memang aturannya terikat hanya si ITE itu saja. Dan kalau kita bicara tentang media mainstream, kita kan ada Dewan Pers, terus habis itu ada organisasi-organisasi lain, termasuk juga Komdiji ini melekat ya lewat KPI, KIP, dan lain-lain. Sementara kalau media-media sosial lain ini kan mereka tidak terikat oleh lembaga-lembaga tersebut dan bahkan izinnya pun mereka kan tidak perlu begitu kan ya. Kalau kita ini media-media yang mainstream ini kan repot banget, ketat, semakin ketat semakin sulit gitu ya untuk bergerak. Buktinya kemarin surat edaran dari Komdiji yang dilarang untuk menyiarkan dan lain-lain bocor juga kan ya. Sementara kalau nggak bisa live di situ, akhirnya live-nya di media sosial biasa. Tantangannya berat teman-teman, semakin berat. Di kantor saya aja TvOne pengurangan pegawai itu semakin sering. Ya, mungkin teman-teman juga sudah tahu di TV-TV lain pun juga semakin banyak yang kemudian kena layoff. Nah, itulah harapannya ini teman-teman mulai menata kira-kira dari sini aku mau ngapain, kira-kira aku mau melakukan apa. Nah, memang banyak yang kemudian shifting ya. Seperti teman-teman saya presenter itu ada yang kemudian jadi juru bicara menteri, ada yang kemudian jadi staf sus, staf ahli, dan lain-lain. Nah, ini tergantung teman-teman nanti kalau dari sini mau kemana gitu kan. Karena basic teman-teman komunikasi itu sudah sangat baik. Kenapa? Karena keterampilan yang teman-teman miliki mulai dari komunikasi, kemudian membangun narasi, itu kan jadi soft skill baik supaya nanti ketika teman-teman akan shifting ke perusahaan atau apa, itu teman-teman bisa mengoptimalkan potensi-potensi itu, teman-teman. Nah, lalu apa sih yang kira-kira diperlukan ya kalau misalnya sekarang teman-teman masih pengen tune in di TV? Banyak orang bisa menjadi news presenter, tetapi hanya sedikit orang news presenter yang terpatri di ingatan atau di top of mind audiensnya. Kenapa sih kok orang itu bisa jadi top of mind? Satu, biasanya namanya aneh. Saya beruntung karena nama saya agak aneh ya, dan nama saya Brigita Manohara itu sama dengan Manohara Odelia Pinot yang terluka dadanya, gitu ya teman-teman. Sementara yang lain-lain ya namanya pasti get usual dan lain-lain. Itu biasanya nama itu penting ketika nanti teman-teman akan menjadi presenter gitu ya. Pilih nama yang pas, yang sesuai dengan nama teman-teman lah, kira-kira seperti itu. Kemudian yang kedua, teman-teman dapat momen ketika harus wawancara tokoh penting, dan dari hasil wawancara itu ada materi yang dikutip banyak orang. Itu teman-teman. Oleh karenanya, untuk dapat mengorek informasi yang memang itu belum keluar atau eksklusif gitu ya istilahnya, nah itu memang butuh pengalaman, butuh tips dan trik, juga keberanian. Kenapa? Karena kalau kita bicara TV, itu beda dengan kalau kita, mungkin yang dae juga bisa ini ya, nanti bisa share. Beda dengan kalau misalnya kita cuman YouTube, atau misalnya kita cuman Instagram, atau kita cuman live TikTok, atau kita cuman live Facebook. Kalau kita memang itu TV tradisional, itu untuk wawancara aja krunya banyak, dan kita ini ada layeringnya. Ada layeringnya itu maksudnya gini, ada produsernya, ada prodexnya, ada manajernya, ada GM-nya, ada wapemret, ada pemret, dan semua itu shoot in di situ. Apalagi kalau misalnya itu orang-orang penting yang kita nggak boleh nanya aneh-aneh lah, kira-kira seperti itu. Tetapi sebenarnya walaupun kita sudah ada batasan seperti itu teman-teman, kalau kita kenal dengan si narasumbernya, dan narasumbernya itu nyaman dengan kita, narasumber itu pasti akan menjawab apapun yang kita tanyakan gitu. Nah, itulah pentingnya membangun hubungan dengan narasumber, teman-teman. Hubungan dengan narasumber ini hubungan baik ya. Maksudnya bukan yang dalam tanda petik hubungan lain gitu, enggak. Tetapi hubungan baik kira kita investasi sosial lah, ibaratnya seperti itu. Kita ngobrol, kalau misalnya dia ada info, kita dengerin. Kalau memang berita itu menarik ya kita naikin gitu. Menganggap mereka teman gitu ya, bukan sebagai atasan, bukan juga sebagai pemberi kerja. Maksudnya pemberi kerja itu gini, karena lu kasih gua amplop, gua bantuin lu. Tapi kalau lu nggak kasih gua amplop, gua nggak bantuin. Jangan gitu teman-teman. Karena kita nggak tahu kapan kita akan butuh narasumber kita itu. Kenapa sih kok sekarang, walaupun saya lagi cuti di TV, tapi kerjaan saya masih banyak gitu ya. Alhamdulillah, puji Tuhan, kira-kira seperti itu. Ya karena hubungan baik ini teman-teman. Saya membangun hubungan baik dengan Pak Sachin yang baru sekali saya ketemu. Tapi Pak Sachin trust me gitu kan ya. Itulah pentingnya membangun nama baik, membangun citra yang baik teman-teman, dan juga membangun reputasi teman-teman itu sendiri. Gitu ya Pak Sachin, terima kasih Pak Sachin. Berteman itu dengan siapa saja teman-teman, termasuk yang ada di ruangan ini. Siapa tahu nanti teman-teman ada kesempatan, karena India ini kan berkembang pesat sekali ya teman-teman. Siapa tahu nanti keluarga Ambani ada kasih sponsor banyak untuk Voice of Tomorrow, terus teman-teman diajak ke India ya kan. Kira-kira gitu bercanda intermezzo di pagi hari ini teman-teman. Nah, oleh karenanya teman-teman, karena sekarang kalau dulu kan kita presenter aja, kita reporter aja. Sekarang kan multi platform, satu untuk semua. Ya teman-teman pasti sudah get usual lah dengan optimasi handphone, optimasi mikrofon, optimasi dan lain-lain. Barang-barang yang dulu tuh berat buat kita untuk lakukan sendiri, tapi sekarang teman-teman bisa melakukan semua sendiri. Ini nilai plus buat teman-teman. Artinya apa? Kalau nanti teman-teman sudah punya keahlian merekod gambar yang baik, bagaimana mewawancara dengan baik, bagaimana kemudian melakukan kegiatan public speaking yang baik. Nah, bukan tidak mungkin kalau nanti pekerjaan-pekerjaan yang mestinya bisa dilakukan banyak orang bisa teman-teman take over dan itu bisa jadi opportunity kerja untuk teman-teman di kemudian hari. Kira-kira seperti itu. Nah, ini etika singkat saja teman-teman, dasar-dasar etika jurnalisme ini juga kita pasti waktu awal-awal itu diajarin. Kita pasti juga kalau kantornya baik kita dikasih kode etik itu untuk bisa dibaca, termasuk juga kalau kantornya baik terkait dengan P3 SPS itu pasti dikenalkan kepada kita, dan termasuk juga standar kualitas yang baik itu yang seperti apa. Karena kalau kita ngomong soal TV mainstream, TV yang tradisional, itu pasti gambarnya itu pasti ada standarisasinya. Walaupun sekarang ya semua orang bisa jadi inilah ya, bisa jadi wartawan, semua orang bisa merasa dirinya paling tahu, semua orang bisa merasa dirinya paling benar. Tetapi percayalah teman-teman, platform apapun yang teman-teman lihat di media sosial, pasti nanti baliknya untuk bisa mengkonfirmasi ini berita hoax atau bukan, mereka nontonnya ke TV yang tradisional untuk cross check terakhir. Nah, ini masalah-masalah yang sekarang ini juga dihadapi, termasuk kita sudah berusaha ngeblur gitu ya, kita sudah berusaha mematuhi sesuai dengan etika, karena kalau kita nggak mematuhi kaidah-kaidah, aturan-aturan yang ada, nanti kita disuratin. Tapi ternyata kalau kita lihat di media sosial, semuanya terpampang nyata dengan gamblangnya dibuka. Nah, itu kan kadang-kadang kita juga miris ya, kita juga sedih ya. Nah, sekarang yang sulit itu teman-teman para PR, termasuk juga para ini ya, humas-humas di berbagai instansi. Kenapa? Ketika mereka berusaha untuk berkomunikasi dengan kita yang mainstream, ternyata yang online-online yang dalam tanda petik ini biasanya tidak masuk di tier 1, ini bisa menginformasikan, bisa menyampaikan. Nah, itu juga jadi PR sih bagi PR-PR di perusahaan ya, teman-teman. Karena ya mohon maaf lahir dan batin, banyak banget sekarang bikin media kan gampang ya teman-teman, hanya dengan beli domain 250.000 setahun kita udah punya media, dan itu problem sih. Bukan begitu Bapak Dafa? Kalau dulu kita bisa tahu yang namanya TV ya udah itu aja. Kalau yang namanya koran itu aja. Online itu aja. Sekarang tapi kalau kita lihat ya, online tier 1, tier 2, tier 3, tier 4 itu sampai dibikin kayak gitu sih kalau di Kementerian BUMN ya teman-teman, dan di perusahaan-perusahaan besar. Nah, kadang-kadang yang nggak kepegang ini yang kemudian viral, ini yang kemudian jadi buah bibir. Nah, itu yang bikin kita mumet gitu kan. Influencer aja, ini influencer apa sih? Kita nggak tahu, kita nggak kenal, kok bisa sih dia viral gitu kan ya. Ya, ini memang agak susah teman-teman dari hari ke hari, dari tahun ke tahun. Ya, pelanggaran etika banyak, tapi kita di TV ini terikat sekali sih ya. Termasuk juga kita di mainstream ini sangat terikat dengan banyak aturan. Yang nggak banyak aturan itu kalau yang ya itu tadi yang dari awal saya cerita, nggak tahu ini medianya apa, nggak jelas ini medianya apa, tapi habis itu dia viral, terus habis itu nggak tahu orangnya yang mana, nggak tahu ininya yang mana gitu kan. Terus dampaknya pasti banyak, contohnya penggiringan opini, ijazah palsu ya kan, itu salah satu. Orang pikir oh ya ini nggak benar, ini benar, ini nggak benar, ini nggak benar, ini benar. Masa iya itu nggak benar? Nggak mungkin lah. KPU kemudian tidak melakukan verifikasi dan lain-lain. Bisa jadi presiden 10 tahun. Ya itu adalah cara untuk bisa membangun narasi supaya tetap jadi top of mind. Yaitu cara-cara yang sekarang teman-teman kalau dulu komunikasi belajar teorinya itu harus yang baik-baik, harus yang ini. Sekarang teori-teori komunikasi termasuk juga membangun narasi itu bisa kebalik-balik sih teman-teman, gara-gara pesatnya perkembangan si media sosial ini, termasuk juga perkembangan internet gitu ya teman-teman. Jadi kalau dulu tips-tips untuk mengatasi krisis saat proses peliputan berita sangat konvensional sekali, sekarang udahlah agak lain, dalam tanda petik ya, agak lain. Treatmentnya nggak bisa digeneralisasi kalau sekarang ini teman-teman, treatmentnya spesifik karena narsum-narsumnya pun yang kalau dulu kan biasanya mereka kan jarang drama ya. Sekarang mereka sering bikin drama supaya jadi perhatian, supaya tidak harus membayar iklan untuk bisa dipublikasi ataupun mendapat perhatian dari kita. Kayak gitu teman-teman. Kayaknya aku nggak banyak-banyak supaya ada banyak pertanyaan dari teman-teman aja yang bisa aku jawab, sekedar sharing session pengalaman aku. Jadi saya jadi jurnalis ini kurang lebih setengah usia saya. Kenapa? Karena dari zaman kuliah saya udah mulai siaran, saya udah mulai liputan waktu masih di Surabaya. Mulai dari saya VJ ya dulu ya teman-teman. Jadi saya tahu ambil gambar walaupun pakai auto, bukan pakai yang manual, tapi saya dulu VJ. Jadi zaman saya di Indosiar itu saya VJ, saya ambil beritanya sendiri, saya dubbing sendiri, saya ketik sendiri dan saya siarkan sendiri ya. Termasuk juga baju siarannya saya bawa sendiri ke laundry. Itu di Indosiar dulu. Jadi saya merasakan perjuangan itu yang kadang orang nggak lihat. Orang lihatnya kan sekarang ketika saya udah ada di Jakarta, oh ya udah keren masuk TvOne gitu ya. Tapi tidak begitu pulgoso. Kehidupan ini memang jauh lebih berat sebelum Anda melihat saya. Itu dulu Kak Dava, saya berharap akan ada respon dari teman-teman yang mudah-mudahan bisa memberikan pencerahan pada teman-teman semua dan menginspirasi teman-teman untuk bisa loncat lebih tinggi lagi. Tidak sekedar puas dengan apa yang teman-teman dapatkan sekarang, tetapi jauh lagi. Setelah ikut ini mudah-mudahan teman-teman tahu apa yang teman-teman pengen, apa yang teman-teman harapkan, dan teman-teman mulai menyusun rencana untuk bisa meraih target-target cita-cita yang sudah teman-teman tetapkan. Itu, Mas Dava.
Baik, terima kasih Mbak Brigita. Sebenarnya untuk pemaparannya sangat komprehensif tapi singkat dan itu sudah sangat apa ya namanya meningkatkan gimana semangat dari teman-teman nih di sini udah banyak dari
Iya
teman-teman
nih,
yang
boleh diketik aja nanti aku jawab satu-satu. Ini lewat Mas Dava atau aku bisa langsung respon?
boleh Mbak Brigita kalau misalnya ini udah
Langsung aja
ini.
gitu ya.
Mm.
Kak Ade, terima kasih responnya. Bagaimana cara menjaga keseimbangan antara penampilan dan pesan yang disampaikan sekaligus mempertahankan ciri khas agar program yang kita bawakan memiliki nilai lebih dibandingkan program lain. Apalagi di media mainstream seperti TV yang usahanya sekarang, oh benar, memang harus ekstra banget. Jadi gini teman-teman, ini pengalaman ya, bukan julid ya. Ini pengalaman, bukan julid. Kebanyakan dari kita itu berusaha kalau di depan layar, itu kelihatan wow gitu ya. Tapi habis itu nanti kalau kita ketemu orang itu beda. Nah, konsistensi teman-teman makanya konsisten dulu. Mau dicitrakan seperti yang bagaimana? Teman-teman mau apa? Gitu ya. Kadang-kadang kan gini, kita presenter ini dipaksa untuk tahu semua. Dipaksa ya, dipaksa. Kenapa? Karena kita kerja di TV, kita kerja di media, orang berpikirnya kita tahu semua. Maka itu sebenarnya jadi lecutan buat kita teman-teman untuk bisa terus mengupgrade diri. Nah, tapi kalau saya saran, mending teman-teman ini punya spesifikasi tersendiri. Supaya apa? Supaya teman-teman itu nggak terlalu general. Jadi kayak gini lah, kalau kita lihat contohnya bos saya aja ya, Karni Ilyas. Karni Ilyas itu kalau urusan bisnis, dia paham bisnis, tetapi dia tidak dalam di sana. Dia lebih dalam di ilmu hukum. Jadi dia spesifik di sana, terus dia bangun Indonesia Lawyers Club, dan itu adalah dia, trademark. Nah, saya ini kan sebenarnya ilmu hukum, tetapi karena saya membuat program Indonesia Business Forum, which is ini adalah economic forum, maka mau tidak mau saya juga mesti membekali diri saya dengan ilmu ekonomi dan saya berkecimpung, berkenalan, bergumul dengan orang-orang ekonomi. Nah, itu adalah cara untuk bisa membangun ciri khas dan itu cara untuk bisa membangun trademark teman-teman. Nah, Kak Ade sekarang maunya apa? Even though misalnya Kak Ade diplot di kriminal, tapi kan saya tahu Kak Ade pasti punya keinginan, saya mau di sport. Nah, coba tolong dibangun mulai sekarang sama lingkungan yang memang support kakak. Jadi one day ada kesempatan kakak masuk ke sana, yang itu merupakan keinginan kakak, itu kakak udah sesuai dengan fit gitu loh. Maka ada tertulis gini, bersiap-siaplah, berjaga-jagalah, sebab engkau tidak tahu kapan potensi ataupun peluang-peluang itu datang pada teman-teman. Nah, itu yang kemudian saya siapkan, itu yang kemudian saya sekolah, saya berteman dengan banyak orang, saya investasi sosial, itu cara untuk bisa mempertahankan saya sesuai dengan program saya sesuai dengan yang orang lihat baik di TV maupun di luar. Itu ya kira-kira. Jadi kalau dulu orang taunya Brigita Manohara adalah TvOne, tapi sekarang mencoba bergeser, Brigita Manohara adalah Brigita Manohara. Kayak gitu teman-teman. Memang capek menjaga keseimbangan penampilan dan pesan yang disampaikan itu memang capek teman-teman. Tapi kalau yang teman-teman citrakan itu adalah diri teman-teman sendiri bukan orang lain, maka itu tidak akan jadi berat. Gitu ya. Akan jadi berat kalau misalnya gini, ya udahlah kalau lu mampunya beli coach aja, nggak usah sok-sokan beli Hermes, yang ada lu malah pusing gitu ya. Ya udahlah lu kalau memang masih nongkrong di ibarat kata ya, nongkrongnya masih nongkrong di Warmindo, ya udah nggak apa-apa di Warmindo, tapi sama siapa yang lu ajak ke Warmindo kan gitu. Ya gue juga masih nongkrong di Warmindo, gue masih makan di warteg, jadi gak usah khawatir gitu ya. Biar kata gue presenter senior, ya tetap aja hidup gue kayak begini. Lu lihat gue di luar juga ya gue begini gitu loh. Jadi no palsu-palsu. Karena ketika lu udah mulai palsu, nanti lu orang lihat, ih ternyata dia nggak gitu loh, ih ternyata dia itu malah jahat ya. Itu Kak Ade. Kemudian Kak Made, untuk tetap mempertahankan persona. Karena pada saat disrupsi media, banyak media berbasis TikTok. Iya, iya memang Kak Dinda, memang. TV ini lama, iya. Kan tadi makanya aku bilang layernya kita nih banyak banget. Jadi berita yang menurut kita itu menarik, tapi karena kebijakan perusahaan akhirnya nggak tayang, ya kan? Itu sering banget di kantor aku. Itu sering gitu ya. Ya mau gimana? Nggak apa-apa. Tetapi kita masih tetap mempertahankan quality itu. Supaya apa? Supaya kita tetap menjadi rujukan terakhir. Ibarat kata gini loh. Di luaran boleh jadi banyak pilihan makanan, banyak pilihan apa ya, hiburan. Tetapi ketika kita sudah mencari rujukan yang pas, kita tahu kemana kita harus pergi. Gitu loh. Biar kata, gini deh, biar kata orang lain itu mau kasih apa aja, tapi kalau kita udah trust, misalnya kita udah trust nih sama Mas Dava, pasti kita nanti akan tanyanya ke Mas Dava. Atau kita misalnya udah tahu nih berita yang ditayangin sama Kak Made Dinda ini adalah berita-berita yang paling benar, berita-berita yang paling aktual. Maka apapun nama Made Dinda lainnya, Made Dinda kita, Made Dinda apa yang dicari tetap Made Dinda. Gitu loh. Contohnya seperti yang paling gampang kalau Kakak tahu lambe turah itu kan ada lambe turah, ada lambe nyinyir, ada lambe lainnya. Tapi walaupun lambe lain ini memberitakan berita macam apapun, kita tetap mainnya ke lambe turah lihatnya. Kayak gitu loh Kak. Jadi nggak apa-apa. Biar kata tetap ada orang lain, biar kata tetap ada media baru, tapi kalau kita tetap jaga quality kita segitu, maka rujukannya adalah tetap orang cari ke kita. Nah itu yang kemudian tetap dilakukan oleh TvOne, kita tetap jadi nomor 1 gitu. Nah gimana caranya untuk tetap jadi nomor 1? Banyak. Kamu cari berita eksklusif, kamu cari berita yang trusty, kamu kasih rujukan yang benar, kamu kasih materi yang sesuai. Nah itu adalah salah satu cara untuk bisa menjadi tetap pilihan di hati pemirsa. Gitu ya, nggak boleh bohong. Terus Kak Brigita atau di TvOne sendiri dialogkan. Kalau online pasti faster. Kami di TvOne itu ada yang memfasilitasi faster itu. Kabar-kabar itu dia faster. Kabar-kabar termasuk juga TvOne News, tvOnenews.com itu dia faster yang diutamakan. Tetapi kalau misalnya kita udah masuk ke fakta, kita udah masuk ke pokoknya weekly report, nah itu biasanya deeper. Kayak program dialog aku yang Indonesia Business Forum itu kan memang dia seminggu sekali ya, maka dia akan lebih deeper mengulas isu gitu. Jadi memang TV ini ya berusaha ngejar, TV yang tradisional ini berusaha ngejar, tapi cara ngejarnya gimana? Bisa pakai ini loh running text yang di bawah, itu cara kita untuk bisa mengejar dan tetap faster. Terus bisa juga kita lihat di tvonenews.com. Nah, itu kan faster. Atau di kabar-kabar itu kan faster ya, teman-teman. Tapi kalau mau yang deeper, biasanya yang weekly report, weekly program itu biasanya dia deeper. Gitu. Kalau apa ya, fokus ya namanya, fokus atau apa ya itu ya. Yang in-depth gitulah, biasanya dia ada program sendiri yang weekly. Jadi dia memang spesifik. Halo Kak Ananda. Oh, dari radio iki lo radio paling top nang Surabaya rek. Ananda Maharani. Penyiar top-top termasuk Mbak Restu. Salam yo Mas. Salam yo Kak buat Kak Restu. Tidak hanya kekuatan suara penyiar tapi juga visual. Apalagi saat ini jika ada sesi yang tampil harus pada live di kanal media sosial sebagai pembawa acara. Bagaimana cara berkomunikasi sebagai penyiar dan ketika menyapa audiens di media sosial karena tentu audiensnya kan berbeda. Basically orangnya sih sebenarnya sama ya. Basically orangnya sama. Cuman gini, kalau dulu saya sebagai penyiar radio, saya dulu di penyiar radio Mercury Kak. Radio Mercury Surabaya. Ya, kan mirip-mirip lah dengan suara Surabaya News. Terus saya juga dulu sempat masuk El Sinta, tapi karena Indosiar tidak melepaskan saya, akhirnya gagal saya masuk El Sinta. Jadi teman-teman, bagaimana cara berkomunikasi sebagai penyiar? Kalau kita radio itu kita nggak mata belekan. Yang penting suara kita tetap merdu, merayu, mendayu-dayu. Biar kata mata udah begini, nggak apa-apa. Orang cuma butuh suara kita, ya kan? Tapi kalau sekarang, karena semua kanal dipakai, jadi langsung live streaming. Ya mau nggak mau pakai lipen, pakai bulu mata, ya kan? Alis lempeng, ya kan? Memang harus begitu pemirsa. Karena memang sudah audiovisual. Jadi perbedaannya hanya kalau dulu teman-teman bisa seenaknya saja misalnya pakai baju tidur di ruangan siaran karena siarannya subuh nggak apa-apa karena nggak ada yang lihat kayak siaran radio ya. Tapi sekarang, hei nggak boleh pemirsa lu tetap harus stay chill, harus cantik, harus oke. Yes, itu bedanya. Dan kalau dulu menyapanya paling juga selamat pagi para pendengar, mudah-mudahan pada hari ini Anda dalam kondisi sehat dan bahagia. Kalau dulu kan paling cuma gitu. Sekarang enggak, sekarang harus nyapa. Halo, apa kabar? Harus berbicara. Semuanya dipakai, ya kan? Untuk bisa membuat orang ini akhirnya ada engagement sama kita. Nah, agak repot memang. Jadi effortnya lebih ya ke Ananda, mudah-mudahan karena ini audiovisual, jadi mudah-mudahan gajinya juga double ya. Double nggak ke Ananda? Karena udah multi platform, ada nggak budget tambahan membeli lipen, membeli bedak, membeli alis? Mudah-mudahan ada ya. Kak Dias, bagaimana menjaga nilai diri agar terus hidup mungkin di tengah kebosanan yang hadir? Sebab ada hal-hal yang dikerjakan yang sepertinya tak terlalu berdampak. Gini Kak, kadang-kadang kalau kita bilang itu tidak berdampak sebenarnya nggak benar juga. Pasti akan ada dampaknya walaupun itu kecil, tapi karena dia kecil dia nggak berasa. Jadi contohnya kayak saya ini menghindari kebosanan ngapain sekolah, les, ya kan? Ikut training, investasi leher ke atas. Memang sekarang nggak kerasa. Yang kerasa adalah kita buang duit, kita buang duit, kita buang duit untuk sekolah, kita buang duit untuk sertifikasi, kita buang duit untuk belajar gitu ya, untuk mengupgrade diri. Misalnya kita lah, ibarat kata kalau kita les online itu kan kita beli yang premium, kita beli yang apa itu investasi Kak. Nggak berasa sekarang Kak, tapi nanti one day ada momennya tiba-tiba, untung gua ikut ini, untung gua udah ada ini, untung gua ada ini kayak gitu Kak. Jadi nggak usah khawatir kalau kakak mau investasi leher ke atas. Itu pasti akan ada dampaknya Kak. Termasuk juga gini Kak, kalau kakak misalnya kakak ketemu narasumber, misalnya narasumber undang ngopi, ngobrol-ngobrol, itu bagi kita kan sebenarnya nggak ada dampaknya ya, bahkan kita buang waktu. Tapi percayalah Kak, one day ketika kakak, orang yang kakak investasikan waktunya, itu menjadi seseorang, itu baru akan terasa, oh ya untung ya dulu gua itu investasi sosial mau ngobrol sama dia. Oh untung ya gua dulu mau bantuin dia, makanya sekarang kok dia mau baik sama gua kayak gitu loh Kak. Jadi ngitung investasi itu kalau kayak investasi kita investasi keuangan ada yang jangka pendek, ada yang jangka menengah, ada yang jangka panjang. Nah, kakak cek ini apakah untuk yang long lasting ataukah ini yang jangka pendek gitu Kak. Karena nggak semua investasi itu bisa langsung diambil. Kalau kakak bisa langsung ambil itu namanya bukan investasi. Gitu Kak. Gitu ya Kak. Jadi kakak cek kakak sukanya apa, itu yang kakak invest. Hal yang sederhana aja. Entah itu misalnya kakak bahasa Korea nih, suka nih misalnya. ya udah kakak les bahasa Korea, terus nanti siapa tahu one day kakak bisa jadi translator Korea, atau mungkin ada kesempatan beasiswa ke Korea kakak udah punya. Nah kayak gitu loh Kak. Jadi kesempatan itu datangnya kadang-kadang tidak kita duga dan lewat orang yang kadangkala kita tidak expect. Gue nggak expect kenal sama Kak Dava, tiba-tiba dipertemukan di sini, ya kan? Siapa tahu nanti Kak Dava bisa jadi atase Indonesia untuk India, ya kan? Kita nggak tahu, gitu kan? Hidup orang kita nggak tahu, Kak. Makanya pandai-pandailah memilih lingkungan tempat kakak beraktivitas. Kak, pernah nggak sih ditantang redaktur untuk ngajuin ide program? Pernah dong. Cara Kak Brigita cari ide untuk program yang bisa menarik dan beda dari yang lain gimana? Udah, nggak usah muluk-muluk. Namanya program itu pasti mirip-mirip. Amati, tiru, modifikasi, ATM. Itu prinsipnya. Amati, tiru, modifikasi. Amati, tiru, modifikasi. Dan tentu kalau mau hasilnya akurat, pasti base data ya, teman-teman, based on data. Jadi misalnya dari data kita ini, audiens kita itu misalnya adalah perempuan. Nah, perempuan itu dia aktif di jam berapa sampai jam berapa. Nah, mereka itu sukanya apa. Nah, mereka ini kecenderungannya bagaimana. Nah, itu yang dijadikan bahan riset supaya program yang teman-teman ajukan itu akhirnya reasonable, affordable, dan tentunya bisa menghasilkan revenue untuk perusahaan. Gitu, teman-teman. Jadi kalau ada tantangan gitu terima aja. Banyak kok sekarang AI pintar. Kalau you orang nggak bisa analyze data, pakai AI aja. Kalau you orang nggak bisa bayar yang pro, pinjem punya temen yang udah pro, yang udah langganan pro gitu kan. Nanti kalau udah langganan pro, you pakai cuma sekali, ya udah terakhir dia makan pasti dia mau, gitu kan teman-teman. Bukan begitu, Bapak Dava? Terus bagaimana jurnalis TV dapat mempertahankan kredibilitas dan kepercayaan publik di tengah persaingan ketat yang membuat konten. Nah, gini loh teman-teman, ini yang aku bilang, teman-teman itu membangun reputasi itu bukan cuma membangun reputasi ketika teman-teman ada di TV aja, tetapi bagaimana teman-teman berperilaku sehari-hari. Teman-teman tentu pernah dengar berita aku ya, di TV ya, di TV tetangga ya, banyak ya. Nah, kalau teman-teman selama ini perilakunya tidak baik, kalau selama ini teman-teman reputasinya gak bagus, maka bukan tidak mungkin kredibilitas reputasi teman-teman itu pun tidak akan dipercaya, tidak akan trust. Jadi apa yang kita tuai nanti, apa yang kita tuai di kemudian hari itu adalah hasil yang kita tanam sekarang, teman-teman. Maka tanam yang baik-baik, gitu ya teman-teman. Terus kalau ada misalnya perilaku-perilaku senior yang menurut kita secara ideal itu kurang pas, ya udah tahu nggak pas, lu ikutin. Ya yang salah siapa, ya kan? Kalau emang nggak pas menurut hati teman-teman, ya udah nggak usah dilakuin. Lakuin yang menurut teman-teman pas dan memang itu sesuai dengan aturan. Dan itu memang sesuai dengan etika yang ada, itu sesuai dengan norma yang ada. Ya udah lakuin aja kayak gitu dan lakuin terus hal-hal yang baik, teman-teman. Percayalah, one day teman-teman akan tuai kok. Jadi misalnya kayak aku dulu, kok mau sih lu disuruh jadi VJ, lu disuruh siaran sendiri, lu dubbing sendiri, terus habis itu lu masukin laundry sendiri, lu ambil baju sendiri, kok mau sih? Mau, karena saya mau belajar. Dan percayalah apa yang sudah teman-teman pelajari itu one day teman-teman akan tuai hasilnya. Ya kayak gue lah, siapa sih Brigita Manohara ya tiba-tiba sudah jadi konsultan, tiba-tiba sudah jadi ini, tiba-tiba sudah jadi ini. Ya udah, ya mungkin itu adalah hasil tanaman aku yang dulu. Ya sekarang orang udah trust aku, gitu kan. Akhirnya aku dipercaya, kayak gitu teman-teman. Semua hal itu tidak dinilai dengan uang, pemirsa. Kesempatan untuk teman-teman bisa ikut sesuatu pelatihan, teman-teman bisa diberikan kesempatan untuk bertemu dengan networking yang baik, itu juga salah satu opportunity, itu juga salah satu hal. Nah, teman-teman media ini sebenarnya opportunity-nya besar banget, bisa kenal semua orang, bisa kenal semua kalangan. Nah, itu dimanfaatkan teman-teman. Makanya ketika nanti teman-teman jualan diri, oh ya aku nih ini, aku nih ini, aku nih ini, aku bisa ini, aku bisa ini, aku bisa ini, aku bisa. Nah, kalau udah kayak gitu plus-plusnya banyak, nanti teman-teman akan jadi top of mind. Nanti teman-teman pasti akan ditawarin banyak pekerjaan baru yang teman-teman nggak pernah expect. Oh, ternyata kerjaan ini gajinya gede ya. Ternyata hanya jadi konsultan itu gajinya bisa banyak ya. Nah, itu. Gitu teman-teman, itu fakta. Oke, lanjut. Mbak, sebagai perempuan yang udah lama berkecimpung di dunia jurnalisme, berbagai dinamika di ruang redaksi, lapangan maupun di depan layar. Apa tantangan terbesar yang dihadapi sebagai perempuan dalam industri media? Bagaimana Mbak mengatasi secara profesional maupun personal supaya tetap bisa menyampaikan berita yang dengan integritas dan empati? Banyak tantangannya, apalagi perempuan. Banyak pria-pria tampan yang suka menggoda. Benar kan Kak Betty? Benar kan? Benar banget. Gini teman-teman, kita tuh punya hati, kita punya pikiran ya. Kita tahu mana yang baik, mana yang enggak. Ya kalau menurut teman-teman itu baik dan itu manfaat buat hidup teman-teman, ya silakan teman-teman lakukan. Tapi setiap tindakan itu pasti ada resikonya. Pilihlah resiko terminimal yang itu tidak mengganggu jangka panjang. Bisa dipahami ya teman-teman maksud aku ya. Jadi misalnya lu bisa pipis sembarangan. Tapi apa you yakin kalau you pipis sembarangan ini, you nanti nggak kena penyakit? Apa yakin kalau misalnya you pipis sembarangan dimanapun tempatnya, itu terus kemudian nggak akan ada orang yang lihat, nggak akan ada orang yang kemudian ngomongin kamu. Nah, jadi setiap melakukan sesuatu teman-teman, hitung. Kayak bisnis, hitung. Positifnya apa, negatifnya apa. Kalau positifnya lebih banyak, lakuin. Kalau negatifnya lebih banyak, jangan. Hidup lo bukan cuma buat diri lo saat ini doang. Hidup lo ini lo berharap lo panjang umur, hidup lo berharap lo nanti di kemudian hari orang masih terasa sama lo, dan hidup lo pasti di kemudian hari biar kata lo udah tua, lo tetap bisa punya penghasilan, lo tetap hidup sejahtera, lo tetap bisa hidup foya-foya. Nah, supaya lo nanti tua bisa tetap punya penghasilan dan hidup foya-foya, maka mulai sekarang lo invest. Investnya itu bisa invest tabungan, bisa invest pendidikan. Invest yang mana yang pilih teman-teman? Teman-teman maunya apa? Teman-teman pengennya apa? Nah itu mulai sekarang ditata teman-teman. Bagaimana supaya tetap profesional? Yaitu balik lagi. Orang itu kalau dia tidak pernah mengasah hatinya, tidak pernah mengasah empatinya, ya akhirnya dia mati rasa. Tapi kalau kamu tetap polas asih, kamu tetap bisa membalancing emosimu, ya pasti berita yang kamu sampaikan itu akan bisa tersampaikan dan emosinya itu pasti sampai. Orang yang pura-pura akan berbeda dengan orang yang tulus teman-teman. Dan audiens sekarang itu cerdas. Dia tahu mana yang pura-pura, dia tahu mana yang enggak. Dia bisa track kalau kamu nih bohong. Netizen sekarang itu kan Judita Handayani ya, Setiawati ya. Luar biasa ya, netizen maha benar ya. Jadi hati-hati makanya teman-teman. Kalaupun misalnya kita kalau kita mau melakukan sesuatu hati-hati. Kenapa? Karena resikonya bisa panjang. Gitu teman-teman. Gimana kita yang latar belakang jurusan pendidikan bisa? Gue arsitek, jadi nggak ada alasan. Nggak ada alasan. Gue arsitek ya. Gue tadi udah lihat CV gue dulu arsitek. Tapi gue bisa jadi jurnalis. Tapi sekarang karena jurnalis ini tidak ada uangnya. Jadi saya masuk korporat ya, pemirsa. Mulai belajar korporat. Percayalah, ingat kata-kata gua nih ya, ingat kata-kata gua. Penghasilan itu bukan hanya gaji. Dan penghasilan itu tergantung kemampuan, keterampilan kamu. Gitu ya, Kak. Jadi, penghasilan itu bukan gaji. Penghasilan itu bergantung kemampuan kamu. Dah, itu aja kuncinya. Makanya kamu naikin kemampuan kamu naikin keterampilan kamu, maka penghasilan kamu bertambah. Gitu. Jadi, gue sekolah dokter. Orang mikir, kalau sekolah dokter, gaji lu makin dikit, masih gini, job MC-mu makin dikit. Iya, job MC gue makin dikit. Kayaknya gue suruh belajar jadi narasumber, makanya jadi konsultan. Gajinya lebih fix, lebih jelas. Kalau lu cuma jadi MC, sekarang lu nge-MC nih, besok kok nggak ada kerjaan, lu bingung. Tapi kalau lu jadi konsultan, gaji lu tetap gitu. Dan saya punya mimpi, saya pengen jadi profesor, teman-teman. Mudah-mudahan Tuhan dengarkan ya hari ini. Siapa tahu nanti gue jadi profesor kayak profesor gue gitu ya, jadi konsultan di 4 perusahaan tambang, 5 perusahaan tambang. Wah, satu perusahaan tambang ya 30 juta, lu tinggal kaliin kalkulator jalan, ya kan? Maka gue bilang, lu teman-teman yang ada di sini, tolong mulai sekarang disusun. Teman-teman pengen apa? Stepnya bagaimana? Dan untuk sampai ke sana seperti apa? Ini Voice of Tomorrow ini membuka pandangan teman-teman. bahwa you can be apa aja. Bambang Susatyo aja dari jurnalis jadi ketua DPR. Mutia Hafid aja jadi menteri, ya kan? Siapa lagi? Charles, siapa? Siapa? Nico Siahaan bisa jadi DPR. Terus Farhan bisa jadi wali kota. Jadi ini tuh pijakan awal teman-teman untuk melompat lebih tinggi. Ini bukan akhir teman-teman. You orang jadi jurnalis itu bukan akhir. Tapi ini pijakan teman-teman untuk teman-teman melompat lebih tinggi. Tinggal teman-teman mau lompatnya setinggi apa. Dan kalau teman-teman mau lompat, siapin peralatannya supaya ketika nanti misalnya lu jatuh, nggak sesuai dengan harapan, ada bempernya. Lu nggak patah tulang. Gitu, teman-teman. Nah, Pak Dahlan kan jadi menteri, Rezar Patria jadi wamen, jadi lu bisa jadi apa aja. Oke? Lu bisa jadi apa aja, teman-teman. You bisa jadi apapun yang lo mau di dunia ini, yang penting siapin dirimu. Supaya kamu pantas jadi di posisi yang kamu mau. Oke?
Iya,
Man,
baik.
itu Kak Dafa, mudah-mudahan
Baik, terima kasih
bisa
banyak.
termotivasi, ya kan?
Baik, terima kasih banyak Mbak Brigita. Jadi bukan cuman bagaimana penjelasan tentang TV jurnalisme aja, tapi tentang life karir dan life plan juga
Ya.
nih. Baik, terima kasih Mbak Brigita atas pemaparan dan juga diskusi yang sangat aktif dengan teman-teman partisipan yang sudah hadir di sini, dan mungkin mohon maaf kepada para peserta juga karena keterbatasan waktu juga. Kami akan melanjutkan kepada sesi selanjutnya, yang mana selanjutnya akan uh, bersama dengan Srinjoy.
Okay.
Thank you so much, Mbak Brigita.
Sampai jumpa ya.
Terima kasih.
In touch.
Okay, now Srinjoy, you're connected. Can everybody see? Dafa, bisa lihat layar?
Yes, I can see your screen, Pak.
Okay. With technology, but with the connectivity problems where I live in Delhi. But that said, let me thank Sandeep Chakravorty, Indian ambassador to Jakarta, and Sachin for putting this wonderful show. I heard Brigita Manohara. Now my Bhasha Indonesia is not very good. Regardless of that, I understood one word in 100, and that was good enough. And she sounded well, she looked well, and it's a very hard act to follow. So, ladies and gentlemen, please give me the opportunity to just say what I feel. I may not be half as good as Bridget, but I will try my best. She was absolutely outstanding, is all I can say. But my name is Srinjoy Chowdhury. I've been a journalist 42 years. And as luck would have it, 21 in print, 21 in television. But I want to start with a man who lived many years ago. And his name is Ian Stephens. Now, not many people in India have heard of Ian Stephens. So I imagine few people in Indonesia would have. But I cannot think of a better man to start with. For a while, 6-7 years, I worked for the paper he edited called The Statesman. And if you Google him after this 45 minutes or so, you will see what he did. But I'll tell you very quickly. Now, 1944 is a very difficult year for Indonesia and for India because you are under Japanese occupation. We had British occupation. British rule was continuing. The Japanese forces were at the door of India. They had entered northeastern India. There was heavy fighting going on. And in Bengal, where I lived for the first half of my life, there was a famine going on. There were all of 2 million people who had died in that famine. And people were coming to Calcutta, then the capital of West Bengal, and once the capital of India, and dying on the streets. Now, war is going on. India is under British rule. The Statesman is a British paper. And Ian Stephens is an Englishman. Now, he was one of those eccentric Englishmen who bicycled to office every day, and the car would follow. And after that, he would
sort of have a shower and begin his work. Now, on his way to office, as he bicycled to office, he saw people dying on the streets, And yet the British government had a clear warning to all papers that you cannot write about the Bengal famine. Now, 2 million people were already dead. People were streaming to Calcutta in search of food. There was no food. People were dying. Ian Stephens looked at the warning very quickly, given in writing, and said, I have been told by the British government not to write about the fact. Fine, I'll find a solution. So he filled the paper, The Statesman, with pictures of people dying on the streets. Now, what was the impact? The Statesman, as it was that then, a truly great paper, it got to London, it got to the British Parliament, and food finally arrived. I don't know how many of you have heard of Amartya Sen. He's an Indian economist, a Nobel laureate in economics. And he wrote to the Times just after Ian Stephens passed away, the Times London, saying, we want to thank Ian Stephens for saving perhaps 1 million lives. Now, how many journalists have saved 1 million lives? Ian Stephens has. So I thought I would begin my 30 minutes with a tribute to Ian Stephens and the fact that I worked for a paper which had been edited once by Ian Stephens. As I mentioned, I've been a journalist 42 years. And believe me, I didn't begin as a child worker. So I've been around a lot. But I have to say, in these 42 years, half and half in print and television, largely things seem to remain the same. If there is news, news is news. It doesn't change. In the fact that, let's say, and I do this so often, let's say there is an important meeting coming up. Let's say there is an important cabinet meeting tomorrow in your country or my country. And you have the agenda in your hands. You have that piece of paper saying what is coming in the cabinet meeting. You are in print. You go back and write the story and say, tomorrow there is a cabinet meeting and this is going to happen. If you are in television, your deadline is 5 minutes away. You rush to office or you get on video phone like we have on this one and say the cabinet is meeting tomorrow. The Prime Minister is heading the cabinet, and these are the things that are going to be discussed. Now, that is the same in TV or in print. So some things will remain the same. You break it the next morning, or you break it right now on TV. And if the story is big enough, that story is going to last. Other channels will pick it up. The newspapers will pick it up. But everybody will know, at least in the media world, that you have broken the story. So that's the very important thing. Sometimes we have to talk about our own stories. And I'll just give you 2 examples of how this works. One day, it was a Sunday like today, a very senior person in the Indian Armed Forces called me. And he said, in the Indian government called me. And he said, come to my house. So I came to his house. He said, look, we are very worried that we are getting intelligence reports of a terror attack coming up. A terror attack by terrorists from across the line of control. And they would hit people here. And we are very worried about it. So I said, fine, you think we should do something? He said, can you do a piece? I wrote, now, as you know, there is also Times, all television channels have a .com. So I quickly bashed it out on my .com, and I will share it with Sachin after this, which will tell you everything about it. The fact was very simple. I simply said that intelligence reports are showing a terror attack is imminent. And 2 days later, the Pahalgam attack happened. And in that Pahalgam attack, terrorists killed 26 people. Now, if you have information like that, then naturally you break it, and you break it as quickly as you can. That's one. I'll give you another example. President Trump and Prime Minister Narendra Modi of India were meeting earlier this year. So I went to my office and then went to my source's office and said, what's going to happen in this discussion? He said that 3 major defense deals will be cleared during the meeting. This was before the meeting. What were they? We want more PA maritime reconnaissance aircraft. Fine. We want the Striker armored vehicle. Fine. We want the Javelin anti-tank missile. Fine. So I went on air and I said that after the meeting, this announcement will be made. And I was on air. This is the mistake people make when they work hard. Your editors make you think that you can work even harder. So I was told, can you be on air all night? All night in Indian hours before the meeting takes place till the joint statement comes out. I said, fine. So I was on air all night. And one of the things I kept saying was this, that these 3 things will be declared by President Trump. And exactly that happened. Now, I can't tell you how much pleasure it gives to get something like this done. And you guys are journalists, you're young people like you have to do it. And I'm sure you do it all the time. But while there are similarities in terms of hard news with television and print, there are also differences. And the major difference, of course, is that when you're a television reporter, you have that camera with you. And that camera can pick up things that a print, when you say that in writing, it doesn't, the impact is not so much. I will talk about specific instances. If it's a war and you have a camera with you and you can go live, you have a live view, then you're better than anyone in the world, because all you have to do is focus the camera and you're there. If it's conflict, similar. If it's an earthquake, there have been many. If it's a tsunami, there has been one in Indonesia and also much of Southeast Asia. You have a camera and live, you see the waters coming in, no one can stop you. You're king or queen of the world. So in these areas, when there are visual opportunities, then of course, no one can stop a television journalist. Nothing, even the best writers in the world will be at a loss with you, because you have your camera, you have your cameraman, you have a live link. All you have to do is go on air and you will go to millions of people in the world. As far as my channel is concerned, it has a reach of about 20 million. But Indonesia is a huge country, and surely all of you will have enormous reach. And that is how television has such an impact. Even if it's a story which is an investigative story, then there is a huge possibility. I have seen the impact of being on television in conflict situations twice. Once, I'll just give you 2 examples. Once I was in Sri Lanka during the civil war, and I can't tell you how important those pictures were. Those pictures really told every story. You see every grenade explosion. You see every bayonet shining in the sunlight. You actually get a feel of the war. You can sniff the war sitting in your house. That is what television can do for you. Another time, I was caught in the middle of the fighting in Arab Spring in Egypt. And once again, believe me, I was standing in a place where all these horses and donkeys were sent in by Mubarak's people. And I could smell them. And my television camera could see them so well that people in our houses had a very clear idea. So Indonesia is a country, sadly, which has had such problems with all these disasters. You've had a tsunami. It's part of the earthquake zone. There are so many volcanoes in that ring of fire area. So the opportunities, sadly, are all there, because with television, you capture something that is almost impossible for print to do. I mean, I remember all these stories by great writers on, say, a railway accident. A railway accident saying, I've looked in front of me are the ruins of a railway carriage and I can see a pink teddy bear. All that is very evocative. But a photograph of that pink evocative teddy bear just takes you very far away. And the fact that everything can change every 5 minutes with TV is a huge advantage. I'm so happy that I've worked in television because I've seen the best of both. And I'm very happy that this can happen. I mean, a railway accident, a television camera is king. An air crash, a television camera is king. Or someone coming out and making a statement that will change the political situation in the country. Can you imagine someone at 8 o'clock in the morning coming out and saying, well, I'm not going to be prime minister anymore. I'm not going to be president anymore. You have him or her on your camera, and maybe you have him alone on camera. Who can stop you from being king of the world for a day? So, because the newspapers will come only the next morning, by which you are home and dry. So that is the clear advantage of camera. But then again, if it's an investigative story, if it's based on a piece of paper, you can still have enormous impact with television. I'll give you an example of a story I did once. This was some years ago. And my source, a little guy, called me and he said, can you come to my office? So I said, fine. And he gave me a small file of 4 documents, which was a very senior cabinet minister in India, or cabinet ranked official in India, had written to the Deputy National Security Advisor of America, saying, his name was Froman, saying, we want $3 billion in aid from loan from the World Bank, or IMF was it. Can you help us? And his answer was, yes, we'll help you. We will certainly help you, but we find there's a lot of talk about the Bhopal gas tragedy in India these days. Can you guys shut up about it? Not in exactly those words, but more or less that. And the reply was, yes, we'll work on it. Once that happened, and I got those pieces of paper, I had to catch this guy from the Indian side who had written asking for that money. And he was bemused. When I caught him on camera alone, he couldn't believe that I had actually seen those letters. And when he tried to obfuscate, I said, no, but you've written this, and he has written that. And that's where it all started. Because my editor said, look, you screwed, we start. And that afternoon, we went on air with that. And because of television, the power of television, you can get reactions very quickly. Once you have this on air, you have millions of people all over the country coming in, important political people, important people who are associated with the Bhopal tragedy, important people in government, important people outside the country, other great people. So this went on for 3 days. Parliament was disrupted for 3 days. Parliament didn't run for 3 days. Then at the end of the second day, the American Deputy National Security Advisor clarified that, look, yes, I did say this, but look, we don't want to get into it and so on. And then came the final triumph. At the end of the third day, President Obama, sitting in the White House, in the Rose Garden, said, yes, we have seen this. And by then, of course, every paper in the world had carried the story. Every Western paper had carried the story. We have seen the story. And I want to clarify that we want good ties with India. Now, what resulted? Would this have happened if this was a television? If I had written this, say, for a newspaper, I don't think so. I don't think the impact would have been that much. So I must say that I'm grateful for television, for some of the stories that can be done on television are truly exceptional. And all of you will have the opportunity to do such stories in Jakarta or any other part of Indonesia. I've never been to Indonesia. I hope to go one day after I retire and look at how beautiful your country is. But television, believe me, is something that has changed the world in so many ways and in a positive way. Of course, there are negatives, but in a positive way, it has done a huge thing. Importantly, the world keeps changing. It's not that printers have, then television has happened. Now there is something called .com. Now a .com is something you have to, a website is something you have to worry about as far as television journalists are concerned. Because suddenly a .com can get those pictures. A .com can have that story up in the air. So you have to compete in some senses with a .com. Or you have to work in a .com. For instance, I work for a television channel, but my office tells me, we want your stories on the .com, timesnownews.com. So apart from the stuff that you do, what you bring on air is what you bring on air. We will also put it on timesnownews.com. And if you have an investigative story or a story that cannot be put on television for some other reason, the pictures are missing or something, it will be on .com. So for a television journalist in India or anywhere in the world, the .com is a challenge. As is print, as is radio, everything is a challenge. India is a very odd country. We are a large country with a large population. So are you. We also have a diverse kind of population. So have you. But India has enormous competition. It's a very competitive environment vis-a-vis TV. There are over 400, 500 TV channels, news channels. Can you imagine? Everyone is hungry. Everyone is looking for news. You still have to do it. You still have to beat everyone else. And that is the advantage. If you have television, you can break it. And it's not just .coms anymore. It's not .coms anymore. As I said, it is also social media. Can you imagine what social media is like? Because someone somewhere has seen something happening. Someone has seen a car of being driven by, let's say, a parliamentarian or an important political leader or someone like that hit, let's say, a cow. Immediately, there is a photograph. Immediately, there is a video. Because this mobile phone is something so incredible. It gives you the phone and it gives you videos. It gives you pictures. I have 2 iPhones. I don't know how I can live without my mobile phones. It will tell you everything. So in minutes, that picture of that car hitting an animal is, the world is looking at it. So that is again a challenge that we have to face, because social media can also be very disruptive. It can give you pictures that are fake, to put it very strongly. If someone is putting out information that is incorrect, then it's, and even with AI, you can never tell. With AI, it's very hard to explain what is correct and what is not correct. To someone who's technologically zero like me, something is coming out of AI. Do you trust social media? So that is the question that every journalist has to answer. And that will depend on what you see on social media. You have to use your abilities. You have to use your brains. I have very little brains. I have very little abilities. But so I have to go out into the world and trust people and ask people, is this correct? Is this not correct? Why are you asking this? Because I saw it on social media. And I will have to trust people who will tell me, yes, this is correct. Yes, this is not correct. So that is another issue every television journalist of today will face. It's a huge challenge. I'm coming to the end of my career, I think. 42 years is a long time. I actually fear for people who will have to live with social media in the future and AI in the future, because these are challenges that have to be faced. I guess everyone at every time in our lives has to face a challenge. All those people who were in print media 25, 30 years ago probably realized that television was a huge challenge. Now, people in print, in radio, in television face this huge challenge of social media, of AI. We don't know what the future will be, but that's something. I had another point to make. Indian television is actually known to be very, very competitive and also very noisy. Now, noisy comes from the word noisy comes from the fact that there are lots of debates. A lot of debates happen in the evening between about 7 to 8, 8 to 9, 9 to 10, maybe even 10 to 11. There are these anchors, and then there are guests. They are called, and the debates become very fiery. Now, that is what television is known. Indian television is known for. So the point I'm making is that while these debates happen, it's also about hard news. A lot of hard news is broken on television in India, and a lot of stories are broken. The best story I have seen being broken was actually broken in print, just as television was taking off. Here is a man who never covered the defense ministry. He never covered the external affairs ministry. He didn't know anything about the atomic energy department. But one morning, his newspaper, a small newspaper in Bengali, wrote that India was going nuclear. And shortly afterwards, India did go nuclear. Now, it basically means legwork. At the end of the day, whether you're in print, whether you're in television, whether you're in any other form of the media, you still have to know people. You still have to speak to people. You still have to make friends with people. Many years ago, 40 years ago, when I became a journalist, my boss said something. He told me what his boss had told him. He said, well, you become a journalist, buy a nice pair of shoes. And at the end of the year, you look at the sole and heel of your shoes. Have they worn out or have they not worn out? If your heel and sole have worn out, then it means you worked hard. If they haven't, then you need to work hard. I rest my case and I await your questions. Thank you very much for waiting for me and hearing me out. Thank you, Sachin. Thank you, Ambassador Sandeep.
All right. Thank you so much, Mr. Srinjoy, for your presentation. So I would like to encourage to all the participants to write the question for Mr. Srinjoy regarding this TV journalism. So before this, Mr. Srinjoy has shown the advantages of TV journalism are, and then how the challenge of the TV journalism, like we mentioned, like we face right now in this era. We know that AI is very destructive, and it gives challenge to the TV journalism, especially to show facts and to show how the things to be true.
So enjoy. The first question is actually, how do you stay neutral when a newsroom is under political pressure? And
the point is that you have to have your facts. If you have your facts, as long as the facts are being correctly projected, then you cannot have a problem.
Okay, good. Thank you. The next question is, this is by the journalist. Many young journalists are still trying to find their own style on camera. How can they develop a natural sense of on-camera confidence while also building a unique identity or presence that makes their news program stand out from others?
Very good question. I still have a problem with TV. I tend to stiffen up, as you probably see me. I'm not a natural on TV, but I try very hard. And I've been trying very hard. And people say that in these 20 years I've been on camera, I have improved considerably. So I guess for something like this, there is always room for improvement. And you just have to keep doing it and you get better. So I don't think it's rocket science. At the end of the day, if you try hard enough, you watch other people on TV, not just your local people, but people from other countries, you gradually get better and better. And all of you will have enormous potential of being great TV people.
Okay, good. So there is a question here on how can we improve the news collaboration between India and Indonesia? Does India have enough information about Indonesia?
News collaboration. Now that's above my pay grade, because that is what editors do, that is what proprietors do. But on a given point, yes, that I want to know more about Indonesia. I'm sure people in Indonesia want to know more about India. And there have been ways. When I was in the Statesman had this link with 7 newspapers from the ASEAN countries. And they would send us stories and we would use them as they were. We would use them as they were. We had a page which dealt with stories from Indonesia, from Philippines, from Malaysia, from Singapore and various other countries, Vietnam. And all these stories would appear in one page. Every week we had a page for these ASEAN countries. It was very well read because the stories were diverse and well written. Now, that was only one way of doing it. I'm sure there are many other ways of doing it. One way would be a direct collaboration between my channel and your channel. Supposing there's let's say, a volcanic eruption in Indonesia. Supposing there's a change of government in Indonesia. We would cut directly to your channel. And similarly, you can do the same with us.
Okay, thank you. That's actually a good point. Another question from one of our journalists. What elements make a TV story both informative and visually engaging in the era of short attention spans?
I don't know about short attention span, because while you're correct, the attention span is short. There are stories that run the whole day. It all depends on the story. Supposing, I'm just saying, we had a plane crash recently, AI-171, I think. Every day, every channel had that story on air virtually all the time. It's one air crash, 300 people die. It's such a big story. So regardless of short attention spans, that story was on air almost every minute of every broadcast for 3 days.
Yeah, that's a good point.
The thing with India is, whatever you say about India, the opposite is also true. So yes, people in India have short attention spans, but if the story is big and if it's important, then people will watch it.
That's a good point. Okay, another question, Srinjoy, is with breaking news often unfolding live, how do you actually go about ensuring accuracy without losing immediacy? Any experience from your side, or maybe a kind of an example?
See, it depends. Breaking news, I mean, you have information, but when you get information, you always have to check it out. Is it actually true? So that is something that needs to be looked at. And even, I think I can remember one case. There was an important Congress party meeting going on. And even before the meeting ended, there were channels reporters standing next to me who were saying this is going to happen. Now, how the hell did they know? I didn't know. And I kept saying, look, the meeting isn't over. Yes, we can imagine that something like this is likely to happen. But I didn't have the information. So the meeting ended only a few minutes later, a minute or so. But as you know, in television, 2 minutes is a long time in television. So I had to continue to say that, yes, we are hearing that these things could be happening, but we don't know for sure. And as soon as the meeting ended, we got to hear exactly what had happened. So sometimes you jump the gun. And if you jump the gun, you may be right, you may not be right. So I would rather be careful and not jump the gun. I'll give you another example. One of our chief ministers, the probably equivalent of a governor, his plane had vanished. And after it vanished, a friend of mine told me that we saw the plane, we've spotted the plane. And I said, is there any chance of anyone alive? No. And we kept it at that. And we didn't break the story till it officially was announced. Another time, I'll give you, this is coming back. Another time, a man who was a very popular president of India, his name was APJ Abdul Kalam. He had died. He was speaking at a function engagement in northeastern India, and he collapsed and went into hospital. And he was dead. But the government hadn't announced it. But I knew that he was dead. And we did a halfway house. We said, President Kalam critically ill. President Kalam in hospital. And that kept running for a long time. President Kalam ill, President Kalam in hospital, etc., etc. And then after perhaps 10 or 15 minutes, the government came on air and said, President Kalam has passed away. Now, that is being conservative, but sometimes being conservative helps. And if you are conservative on matters like this, you may lose a story, but you don't go wrong. So it's a choice you have to make at that moment. And every choice is different from every other choice. Sometimes you have to make a choice, and you can be wrong sometimes. But if you're wrong, you have to own up and say that, well, this was what we had heard, this is what it is. You have to have that honesty.
Okay, I'm getting all the questions on my chat screen. So here, how do you handle news issues when the public sentiment is heavily polarized? What's your advice on how to go about it for heavily polarized?
Don't exacerbate matters that will lead to violence. Put out all the information on your screen, with your anchors, but just make sure it doesn't lead to an outpouring of violence. It doesn't lead to fighting on the streets. It doesn't lead to deaths.
Okay. Here's another question. What's your view on journalists who also express their opinions on social media platforms? Is that a good thing? Does it compromise credibility or otherwise?
I can speak for myself. I have a social media platform. I am on Facebook. I'm on Twitter. And what the hell is my Twitter account? I think it's Srinjoy C1 or something. But I don't put out my views on Twitter. I put out, for instance, if I've broken a story on television, that's on Twitter. If I've done something else, that's on Twitter. But I try not to put any personal views on television. Every journalist has a right to do it. I don't have a view on this. I personally don't put my views on Twitter. I'm also a bit of a coward. I don't have many views. I call myself a reporter, and a reporter ideally should not have views. But on Twitter, on Facebook, these are the only two I have. I have an Instagram account, which is almost dormant. But I normally don't put in my views on social media. If someone wants to do it, that's his problem, that's her problem. I don't have a view on that, but my views are not on Twitter or X or anything else.
Okay. So here is one question. As a TV journalist, have you faced any issues of speed and accuracy actually coming from the online media instead?
That's exactly what we were talking about.
Yeah.
What we were talking about this. Online media is a huge challenge. Even if you're in television, and I am on online media as well. A lot of times I give a story to my channel, and the online media picks it up first, and then television picks it up. This happens a lot, particularly in the evenings when there are these debates going on. So sometimes online media is ahead of you. And this is a challenge for all journalists, for you, for me, for everybody else, that online media has the ability to beat you. And you have to be respectful of that. If they beat you, you have to check, is it correct? Is it not correct? If it's correct, you go with it.
Okay, that's a good point. Now, here is a little bit of, I think, mentoring information. Some of the young journalists are asking, how can they show their potential to broadcast networks? Can they use an aspiring journalist who wants to be on TV? Should they be using reels or short reports or explainers so that they can showcase their potential to the broadcast networks that they may want to work with?
Okay, I understand. It's a challenging question, but nevertheless, there are really two ways to do it. One is form, one is content. When you talk about reels, when you talk about similar things, then you are showing to people that you can be good on air. So if you can be good on air, if you can look good, speak well, whatever else that is required to be on air, you can do it. Yes, that's one way of doing it. The other is content. If you have a great story, you bring it to your editor and say, look, this is the story I have. And if this is something you want me on air with, I'll be happy to do it.
Okay.
There are both ways of doing it, not just reels. Get a great story. At the end of the day, it's that old story of buying a new pair of shoes or sneakers and ensuring that you meet people, you talk with people, you make friends with people, you make sources, and they will trust you with stories, and they will give it to you. And you bring it to the office triumphantly and say, yeah, this is what I have. And then the office say, fine, we'll have you on air.
Okay, so here is a question from actually the India newsroom people. Can you tell us a little bit more about what motivated you to move from being a print journalist to a television journalist? Is there any interesting story?
Actually, do you want the truth or do you want a very colored version of it? Which one do you want?
I'll leave it to you.
I'll tell you, it's a bit of both.
Yeah.
One is that the paper I worked for, I mean, I loved that paper and I cried in my car the night I left it. But it paid me so badly, I couldn't run my family. I had a growing family. I just got married, I had a child, and there wasn't enough money in the household. I would walk past a bookshop and look straight ahead and not turn left because there wasn't money in my pocket. And this television channel offered me a huge raise. It was such a huge raise that it was maybe 10 times more, something like that. I can't remember, but it was huge, right? So it shows, it doesn't show how much money I made on television. It shows how little I made for the paper I was working for. Because maybe not 10, but a large amount. Also, people told me that you're good for television. You can work well in television. You will succeed on television. You will not be a failure on television because you conduct quizzes, you do things well, you speak okay. So if you look at television, you will not be a failure. So that confidence of knowing I could succeed on television was there when I joined.
Okay. And since joining television, any memorable interviews you've done? I'm saying, which are the ones that you hold close to your heart?
See, it's not just an interview. What stories have you done?
Stories, yeah.
The one I told you about Montek Singh Ahluwalia, and when you do a story out of Delhi and President Obama, Parliament doesn't run for 3 days. And President Obama, sitting in the White House, has to issue a clarification. Then you say, man, that's done.
Yeah.
I'll give you a light-hearted.
Yeah.
It's not a memorable interview. It did not break many but it was important. I mean, I've done many interviews. I don't know. A lot of interviews I've arranged have been for my editor. But I remember doing Tony Blair once. And Mahinda Rajapakse and Nawaz Sharif and Sheikh Hasina and Aung San Suu Kyi and a variety of others, Nicolas Sarkozy. I can think of Bill Gates.
Yes.
Bill Gates. But this one actually was very nice for another completely different reason. I had a martinet of an editor. Sarkozy was coming to India. When I did interview Sarkozy, it was later. Sarkozy was coming to India. And he had this bee in his bonnet. He said, I don't want any interview of Sarkozy. I'm not interested. Sorry. I'm not interested in Sarkozy. I want an interview of Carla Bruni. I mean, come on. How am I going to get your Carla? Now, I mean, I can see the possibilities, the acceptability of having Carla Bruni on air. But, well, it was an impossible situation. I had gone to Bangalore. And unlike my usual days, I was properly dressed. I was wearing a black suit and a tie. And they were at Heathrow, Sarkozy and Carla Bruni. And as soon as they got off the stage, I also got down from where I was. And I wasn't keeping in mind ISRO regulations. I had to hand in my camera mic. So I was just walking like any other man in a suit and tie right behind Sarkozy and Carla Bruni. I could see how much taller she was than him. That's not the point. But Sarkozy got out because he had to give a bite to all the French television channels, naturally in French, on something, Ivory Coast or something like that. And on the other side of that little courtyard under the tree was Carla Bruni. And I turned around and my cameraman, seeing me walk down, had followed me. It is a credit to the cameraman more than anything else. And the cameraman So immediately I started speaking with her. Ah, it's nice to see you, this, that, so on and so forth. And we spoke for 3-4 minutes. Now, the audio was down. And anyone in television will tell you that yes, the audio is down, but you can do something about it. And we did something about it. I was so happy I took the whole office to lunch, the Bangalore office. This was in Bangalore. But in terms of a substantial story, a major story, while the Doklam fighting was going on, the eyeball to eyeball confrontation was going on, I did a 45-minute interview. It's the last one he's ever done, big interview, of His Holiness the Dalai Lama. And during that interview, the first question you ask is, India and China are eyeball to eyeball. What can you do? Or what can be done? He said, India and China are not going to go to war. I can tell you. And he gave me his reasons. And that was a story for a long time. This was not an interview. This was more of a tic-tac, as they say, a short one. There was a no confidence motion against the UPA government. And for a long time, it looked like the UPA could well lose, though I knew for sure they would. But the one man who was very important there was the speaker, Somnath Chatterjee. And Somnath Chatterjee was under pressure from the left. They wanted him to resign. They wanted him to leave his chair as speaker. So there were two things. One, at that point, again, my editor, the Martinet, he wanted an interview of Somnath Chatterjee. Somnath Chatterjee wouldn't speak to God if God came down on earth. How do I catch him? I found out he was taking a flight to Hyderabad. So I said, okay, I got onto that flight. The last 2 tickets that were sold on that flight were mine and my camera business. As I said, I was asked to speak with Somnath Chatterjee. He was Speaker of the Indian Parliament. Now, he was from the left and the left wanted him to resign. We didn't know what was going to happen. Everyone wanted to speak to him. He was not going to speak to anybody. So what do? I find out he's going to get on a flight to Hyderabad. I buy the last 2 tickets that the airline sold on that plane. I caught him on the flight. I said, sir, I have to speak to you. I'll lose my job if you don't speak. So initially he was at his gruff best. He was a very warm-hearted man. The last time and he was at the front of the plane, I was at the back. Second time I went, he was sleeping. When I finally caught him, the plane was almost landing. And he said whatever he had to say. And believe me, that ran for just 2 days. For 2 days, everyone only quoted him from my channel saying, Times Now spoke to Somnath Chatterjee, etc., etc. And what he had said to me was exactly what happened. So sometimes it's not what someone says, but just to get a person seems so important.
Absolutely.
In fact, one of the nicest interviews I ever did was of Aung San Suu Kyi. She spoke so well, so intelligently, so brilliantly. It's something that was memorable. So if you ask me for my 10 best interviews offhand, Aung San Suu Kyi would be one, Sheikh Hasina would be one, Nawaz Sharif would be one, Mahinda Rajapaksa probably, Pranab Mukherjee many times, probably 10 or 12 times, Tony Blair, Nicolas Sarkozy. Then yes, the defense minister of Sweden.
Yeah.
He had never spoken again. And the first question I asked him was about Bofors. Can you imagine, you're an Indian. Here is the defense minister of Sweden speaking to an Indian channel about Bofors.
Yes.
Just think of what the impact would be. So there are things that are memorable.
So I have a closing question. So I have a closing. Oh, sorry, I interrupted you. Go ahead.
No, not at all. Tell me. You're going to say something more important than I.
No, because you have so many memorable interviews under your belt. The question, actually, I got this question from my team saying that who would you like to interview that you have not yet done so? Is there somebody on your wish list?
I mean, there's so many people I'd want to interview. I mean, at this point, there are so many. I mean, living or dead. I mean, enough dead people I would like to interview. Einstein any day.
Yes.
It would be such an interview.
Yes.
I once interviewed a Nobel laureate, and that was the greatest. His name was Simon van der Meer. He got a Nobel Prize in physics, and this was for print. And I told him what the questions were going to be, and he said, "You're a science correspondent," and that was the greatest compliment I've ever got in 43 years.
Fantastic.
So I like that kind of people also. I would be happy to interview, say, someone who hasn't been interviewed many times, who has rarely spoken. And I'll tell you what, he died, but it would have been the greatest interview. I knew someone very well, and I went to him often because he was the head of Boeing company.
I see.
And he told me about his teacher, his engineering teacher in America. And I'd often tell him, can you organize an interview with him? That would be an interview that would change my life, because he's never spoken ever. And he is perhaps one of the most important people in the world. But he died, and I never got that interview. And it was Neil Armstrong.
Oh, wow.
Even you, such an experienced journalist, are saying, oh, wow. Then you know what I had to say.
Absolutely. That one would have been something.
I want to thank all of you for this. And all my friends in Indonesia, and all of you, and Sandeep Chakravorty, for everything you've done for me today. I'm grateful for this 1 hour. And I'm apologetic for my technological incompetence.
I think it went quite well in the end, Srinjoy, because we would have a edited version for the final anthology where we would cut out all these parts. It would look very seamless. No issues.
You're better than I am, and I will ever be.
Yeah.
So thank you.
Yeah. So thanks.
I hope it went.
Yes, it went very well, and thank you so much. I'm going to pass it back to Dafa, but I don't think you'll be able to hear this.
Thank you so much, Pak Sachin, for assisting me in doing the moderating on Mr. Srinjoy session. So I would like to say thank you so much to, first of all, Mbak Brigita yang telah hadir pada sesi di siang hari ini. Dan saya ingin juga mengucapkan terima kasih kepada seluruh partisipan yang telah hadir dan telah aktif juga berdiskusi, terkhusus seperti tadi dengan Mbak Brigita dan juga pertanyaan yang telah diberikan kepada Bapak Srinjoy. Mungkin sebelum saya mengakhiri, saya ingin mengembalikan kepada Bapak Sachin.
Thank you, Dafa. Thank you, Manohara. And thank you very much, Srinjoy, for joining us today. It was a wonderful experience.
I can't tell you how privileged I feel. I want to thank all of you for giving me this little moment and moment of sunshine. Thank you very much.
Sure, sir. Thank you.
Bye.
Okay, thank you so much for coming on today's session. I would like to say apabila terdapat kesalahan dan juga kekurangan yang terdapat pada diri saya, mohon dimaafkan dan terima kasih dan ditunggu untuk di sesi selanjutnya di Voice of Tomorrow. Terima kasih. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.